let's talk about a name that neither of us were that familiar with going into this weekend. Hobbs Kessler, who broke the high school record in the indoor mile at the ATL meet on Sunday, ran 3:57.66, finished third in the race though. Gordon, this was a shock. I saw it on social media and I said, wait, was there a high school kid that I should have been keeping tabs on for breaking 4 this winter? And then it turns out nobody really knew about him. He was flying under the radar.
Yeah, so his PR was a 1600 that was a 4:21 1600. That's like, wow, 4:21 to 3:57. What the hell? And then you kind of read into the tea leaves. Nick Willis said that he did a time trial at 4:08 over the summer, but then he also said that the 4:08 could have probably been more of a 4:04 if he would have ran in lane 1 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So he definitely had improved on his 4:20. He wasn't a 4:20 miler when he stepped on that starting line, clearly, because he ran 3:57. But yeah, people reacted crazily. I had a couple of text message threads with some of the mile split guys and some other people about the reaction to this performance. I mean, he broke Drew Hunter's national record, and it's like, people, when you think of Drew Hunter in the high school scene, you think of like one of the all-time greats. And how can a 4:20 miler, according to his last run, right, be all of a sudden breaking an all-time greats mark? What was your reaction of the surprise of it, and like how big of a deal it was to you? How big of a deal do you think it was to you?
Well, sub-4 high school boys miles are becoming commonplace now. So I don't get as excited as I used to when I see a 3:59. He's the 12th one to do it, but he's the 7th one since 2015. But there's a big difference between running 3:59 on an outdoor track and then running 3:57 indoors and moving all the way up the list to be behind only Alan Webb and Jim Ryan. That's elite company to me. That's different than just your garden variety sub-4. So that's why I think this is different than some of the other ones. Then you add in the fact that he's been under the radar for so long. He's an avid rock climber, apparently. This isn't a kid who's been breaking records every year in youth track. I mean, this to me screams this guy's going to be good at the next level, because he's not somebody who's going to peak their sophomore or junior year of high school and then that's it. Apparently he's going to NAU, which, I mean, it's about time NAU had a break in recruiting. So I feel okay for them. I mean, they needed a little more talent there. So maybe they'll be able to put out a respectable squad. But to me, Gordon, this is different. Like just a 3:59 high and a 3:57. I know it's only a matter of a couple seconds, but when you get to that level, those seconds matter a whole heck of a lot. And when you're able to leapfrog over a whole bunch of guys, some of who did not pan out, right? And that's why that's when this thing started to become, sub-4 was never a guarantee, but with those first few guys who did it, the Jim Ryans, the Alan Webbs, the Marty LaCourys, they went on to this great success. So you thought, okay, sub-4, it's automatic. They're going to be great. We've seen that that's not necessarily the case with some of these kids who've broken it in 2015 and on. But when you're up there, you pass Drew Hunter and you're only behind Ryan and Webb, that's a different conversation to me. So I think this is a significant high school sub-4.
This is what I thought about it. No, stay with me here, okay? Stay with me.
You're gonna talk about Tom Brady again?
No. I don't even like Tom Brady, for the record. I'm a huge Eagles fan. I like the contrarianness of ha ha ha. Anyway,
you showed him.
Yeah, I did. I showed him. I think that this performance, now stay with me, is a result of the pandemic. I think that for many years, I think also the reason why we're seeing sub-4s is also a result of this take I'm about to say. I think a lot of times, okay, let's just look at an example. Jacob Ingebrigtsen.
Yeah.
He, at age, 17 was it, or 16? When did he break his 4? I mean, he's at age 19, he was running 350 miles, right? Age
Yeah,
19, he
yeah,
was running
yeah.
350. Age 18, he was probably running 355. And what is different about him than the run of the mill top elite high school mid distance runner? Now, one, he has, talent, but I feel like the biggest difference is that his environment is centered around becoming an elite runner. And the environment is centered around becoming an elite runner at a young age. He's not in the environment of trying to peak for Foot Locker or trying to peak for New Balance Nationals or trying
Yeah.
to be on a relay team for the dual meet on a Tuesday or just like all these things that are part of the high school world. And he's not being coached. Jacob Ingebrigtsen is not being coached by the gym teacher, right? The gym teacher isn't like say, all right, go. They don't tell
Yeah.
Jacob to go run like 10 miles and be like, all right, see how you do, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we kind of are holding back some of our top high school talents, not because it's not a bad thing. It's good. You're a kid. Be a high school kid. You
Mhm.
don't need to live the life of Jacob Ingebrigtsen. But I think because of the pandemic, it took out the 2020 outdoor season for Hobbs,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
It took out the expectation of trying to do the go-to high school uh race order system, just like peaking for these type of meets. It took away trying to be the best based on the competition around you. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times you never really. I mean, now because of the internet, people want to be as the best in the nation. But before the internet, people were just trying to be the best in the county, so you didn't push
Mhm.
yourself as hard. So the fact that he didn't have the high school system stunting his growth, and then also he wasn't being coached by just a run in the mill random high school track coach. He was being coached by basically Ron Warhorse and Nick Willis. He was basically put under the wing of a professional athlete who's been doing it for 20 years. He basically got the Jacob Ingebrigtsen treatment for an
Mhm.
entire year, maybe more. I'm not sure when it started, but throwing that he had like he's has genetics and he's fit and
Mhm.
he chose to be dedicated to it, plus the influence of a Nick Willis style training, plus
Mhm.
the no distraction of a high school style meets, you get this type of result. And I think we would get more of these type of results if more athletes. I guarantee you, if you took Grant Fisher and he wasn't playing soccer and he wasn't trying to run Foot Locker or New Balance indoors and all this stuff and gave him 18 months under Nick Willis, Grant Fisher would have ran 357. And I think Drew Hunter maybe even run even faster. I just think that we are seeing the result of when you train a young elite athlete the right way with the zero distractions. And this is the
Well,
result of it.
I think it works different for different people, right? Obviously, Hunter
True.
had his method and it was successful, and some people like the Foot Locker, NXN, New Balance structure. Some people, a lot of elite runners scale down their race in high school, right? Their coaches are very cautious about how they run. But I have to admit that take was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. You were bracing me for something really stupid, and that wasn't terrible. But I think yes. Uh, for him, it certainly worked. I know I read that his dad coaches the program there at the high school, but like his dad didn't want to be his coach too, so that's where Warhorst took over. And having Nick Willis as a model, you're right. A lot of parallels there to probably Jacob Ingebrigtsen having his older brothers as his model too, to key off of and understand uh, how to race at a high level, how to train at a high level. Do you agree with me that this one is a bit different? Just if you, from a time perspective, like it's different when someone breaks Drew Hunter's record versus someone running a 359.99 in a setup meet outdoors.
No, because I think a lot of those 359.99 people probably could have been potentially 357s if they had an entire high school season taken away from them, if they had Nick Willis coaching them. I feel like that extra 2.6 seconds faster that
Well, we saw that last year with
Hobbs
Dash Pack.
Kessler
Dash
ran.
Pack did that. Dashbot had his season taken from him. He ran 3:59.
Yeah, taking him at the last minute. This guy had like a whole like year. Like, all right, I know I'm not getting this. Like, it's a little different. And I mean, I did some math. Also, like
7. Did you find
I
number 7 in there?
I found this. So here, check this out. Okay, this is the number of teenagers who have broken 4 in a calendar year. So 2019, 7, 2018, 10, 2017, 7, 16, 7, 15, 8, 14, 3,
What,
13,
US?
7, 12, 9. No, in the world. Most of them are US though. And a lot of these teenagers are breaking either in high school because we had a influx, or they're doing it freshman year as college because they're 19. I said teenagers because they're 19 and they just do it the first year out of in college. And I think a lot of that happens because they're putting into like a pro training environment. Being in college, Andy Powell's going to take you and be like, "Hey, you're gonna," and all of a sudden, Cruz Culpepper is 19 and he's running sub 4, and he literally did that a week ago, right?
Yeah.
I think 350. I think the new breaking 4 should be like 355 because I think the number of people who can run 357 in the world is different now than it was 10, 20 years ago. And I think that this result is more the result of just society getting faster and people just trending towards better and better, as opposed to him becoming an outlier and running away from the pack. I think he's just in front of a pack that has already moved forward. That's what I think.
Okay, but he's still in front. I think the combination of his training setup, the combination of that he doesn't you're talking about a professional environment here, but he's also a kid who, from reading Nick Willis's tweets, is just like very balanced, right? Hasn't been all in on running for the last 10 years of his life. That bodes well. Where he's going to go to college at this little known program in a mountain town somewhere in Arizona, that's going to be good for him. And he's, when you're starting from 357 versus 359, I think that does make a difference at this level. You're right though. I mean, Alan Webb ran 353. Let's not forget that. Alan Webb smashed the high school record and ran a time that made him competitive on an international level immediately. 357 is not there yet, but I think all these signs point to him having the ability to improve on that greatly. Whereas you look at some of these other names on the list, right? That was basically the highlight of their career for a lot of these guys, was breaking 4 in high school.
Yeah.
Some of these recent sub 4 guys, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, again, it's definitely an incredible story and situation for this Kessler kid to come out. We didn't know who he was. And I think most people were like, wait a minute. It's not like he was out there running like a bunch of 405s and 409s and then it's had in a 402. And then all of a sudden, this is the moment, right? It's just like, boom. And I just think it's a result of the environment, which is great. And I think if more athletes get in this environment, we can push the U.S. running scene into the next generation of like, hey, now we can normalize running 357 and now try to make it, hey, we're pushing for low 350s now.
Yeah. I think the anonymity that he enjoyed was a result, I agree with you, of the pandemic, because he didn't have an outdoor season. I think that is true. Maybe that helped because the expectations weren't there and he was able just to relax and run. I think that part is true. I guess we'll have to see more about how he progresses in his next couple races to see, is this just a you're right. Is this a trend? Are there going to be, because now everybody's going to be chasing him, right? And if there are spring all-star track meets outdoors, he's going to have a lot of the spotlight on him, and are other people going to follow? But I don't know. I think it's like when I was watching him race, it looked a little bit different to me than some of these other recent sub 4s.